Thank you, Aiden.
Dice Tower Tonight, episode 60.
Get a clue.
Welcome to Dice Tower Tonight, a video cast about board games and card games, and especially the people who play them. On tonight's show, Crystal and I try to get a clue as we talk about our favorite hint systems in mystery and escape games. Also, I try to give the proper clues to Crystal and the chat. We talk about some recent play sessions, and we answer questions from the audience live. I'm Eric Summerer, and joining me now, the Velma to my Shaggy, Crystal Pisano.
Oh, so we're the mystery, we're traveling down the mystery mobile path tonight.
Hey, Scoob! Yeah. Yes.
I don't think I have any good imitations for any of Scooby or the gang.
Huh? How's it going? We are here a little bit earlier than we would have been because we're getting back on track. We have discussed Mandy and Suzanne's Apptastic program, which was always intended to air opposite us. So on weeks that we weren't doing Dice Tower Tonight, Apptastic would appear in your stream feed. And then Crystal and I were like, well, we're going to move around the holidays, and we totally messed up that plan. So we
really did.
We are getting back on track. From here on out, we should be back in our every other week format. And of course, next week, you'll have Mandy and Suzanne with Apptastic right here in this general time slot.
Which honestly is pretty exciting to have a live show here on the Dice Tower every single Wednesday.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So Crystal, how's your week been? It's been quicker than usual that I get to see you again.
Yeah, it's really nice to see you just a week later. My week has been great. I've been watching a lot of Twitch this week. Awesome Games Done Quick is going on right now, which is a live charity video game marathon that happens twice a year. Okay. And I love watching video game speedrunning. So my TVs in my house have all been tuned to that since Sunday, basically.
Okay. So speaking of live events going on right now, the Dice Tower's annual fundraiser on Kickstarter has kicked off. It kicked off on Monday, and earlier today we reached our funding goal, which is good. It means that we get to keep going. And there's
yeah, that's important.
As you know, this is called Dice Tower Tonight. It's part of the Dice Tower Network. A whole slew of programs, our weekly podcast, video reviews, top 10 lists, all sorts of programming coming from the Dice Tower. And the primary source of the funding for making that all happen is our annual Kickstarter. And so although all of our stuff is free and will continue to be so, we hope that if you do find value in what we do here at the Dice Tower, that you'll take a look at the Kickstarter page. You can search on Kickstarter.com, but you can also go to DicetowerKickstarter.com, and that will take you right to the campaign. There's lots of cool rewards. You can have me do a voicemail for you if you want. There's an Everdell card with my name on it. It's like a bird with a headset on. It's kind of cute.
That's pretty awesome. I haven't been made into a promo card yet, and I would just like to officially state that for 2021, I want to be on a promo.
Yeah, there's a Chronicles of Crime set. So previously there was a Tom, Sam, and Z set, and now there's a Mandy, Suzanne, Roy, and Jason set. And I'm like, what?
I know, and I love Chronicles of Crime too, so when I saw those, I was like, Jason gets a card, come on!
Who knows? He might end up being the murderer. It's for like a specific scenario.
That's entirely true. So next year, you and I can be in the most friendly Chronicles of Crime scenario anyone's ever seen.
It was just, we found a baby bird and set it free. Hey!
Oh, yeah, yay! What a mystery.
Okay, well, we should probably talk about some games that we've played recently because we have a lot to get through today.
Absolutely. Before I mention what game I played recently, I do want to remind everybody in the chat, if you are watching right now and you enjoy Dice Tower Tonight, which comes to you every 2 weeks, please click that little thumbs up button below the video. It helps with those YouTube algorithms, and we really, really appreciate it. So the game that I'm going to talk about this week, I can't show to you for the sake of spoilers, and it also ties into the discussion that Eric and I are going to have in a little while. I finally got to play Escape Tales: The Awakening.
Okay.
So this has been on my radar since BGG Con 2018. I don't remember when the game released exactly, but probably somewhere time before that in 2018. And everyone was like, yeah, it's kind of like an escape room game, but it's longer. It takes hours to play. And I was very intrigued and just had never gotten it to the table. And this past weekend, my friend Greg brought it over and we played it with 4 people. We did finish it in a single session. I think you had said that your group did the same. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, we played through. I mean, we didn't. You can go back and replay this to try and get a better ending. But yeah,
right.
We did one full run through in one sitting.
I think it took us a little while to get through it. I'm trying to remember how long it took us. I want to say it was between 4 and 5 hours for us. With 4 people, we had some decisions that were kind of hard to make, and we hemmed and hawed about certain things. But for those of you who aren't familiar, Escape Tales: The Awakening is kind of an escape room style game, but with more of a narrative than most escape room games. Instead of being trapped in a single room, you're trapped in a story, so to speak. And you, the protagonist, are a father, and I will note there is a content warning here for some of the subject matter. I'm going to keep it very high level, but just so you know, the things I'm going to be referencing involve death and illness and children. So content warning there in case that matters to anyone. So you are playing as a father. Your wife has passed away previously, and your daughter has now fallen into a coma, and you are trying to save your daughter. I don't want to spoil the story for anyone, but you are basically going on an adventure to attempt to save your daughter, and you will go to whatever means are necessary to do that. The way the game works is each area of the story that you enter is a single room, generally generated by 2 cards from a location deck, and then you have specific tokens that you can put onto a grid within those 2 cards to then look up a paragraph in a book, and it will tell you what happens in that area of the room. And that could be you acquiring items or gaining new information or finding the exit to the room, theoretically, and then you move on to the next location. What this system does really well is it makes things linear, but with tiny branches to some degree. You have options. Like, even if you find the exit to a room, you aren't forced to leave immediately. If there's other things you want to explore, you can.
Right.
And that was really cool and very different from a lot of other things.
Yeah, I like the action, like you have a certain number of action tokens that you can spend, and every time you explore a quadrant of the room, I think each scene has 12 boxes you can explore, and you might look at a corner or a bedpost or something, and you don't have 12 action tokens to start in the room. So you really have to pick and choose what you explore, what you don't. And when you run out of these, then you have to trigger event cards, which earn you more action tokens, but also cause not great things to happen. And
they're called Doom cards, which just, like, we were so scared to take our first Doom card, but the game... This is not really a spoiler. The game pushes you toward that first Doom card pretty quickly, and we were like, but wait, we don't want Doom.
Yeah. So you have to really be judicious with those tokens, and I think you get to keep them when you move from room to room. So if you have the exit, you probably don't want to stick around for too much longer. But maybe you do. You know, you never know. I haven't gone back to...
Once you leave a location, you can't go back, and that's important.
Right. What I haven't done is go back to... We got, I don't think, the best ending, but we were very close. I think you could sort of sense that we went one way instead of the other way and ended up making the wrong decision. And we could probably get a better ending if we followed exactly the same path and then just went the other way at the end. But I haven't gone through to try and explore the rest of it yet. I also have the new one, Low Memory, which I really want to get to the table. But again, the subject matter means it's not one I really want to bring out with my kids. This is more of the adult group that I want to play with. Although I will say that I played an escape game a week or two ago that makes this one look tame. So,
this is the one you talked about on the podcast.
Yes, if you were listening to the latest episode of the Dice Tower podcast, it's called 50 Clues, and that one is dark. Because in this one, in Escape Tales, in Escape Tales: The Awakening, it's dark, there's dark subject matter, but you're not necessarily the one doing the dark things. You're sort of weaving your way through them. Whereas in 50 Clues, you are doing some very dark things, and it's almost too uncomfortable, I think, for some players. I pushed my way through, but there's, just so you know, there is farther along on the spectrum if you are playing this style of escape game.
That's especially, yeah, that's good to note. And yeah, so what in Escape Tales, there are specific points in the game where when you draw cards, they give you a choice. And they make it very clear, or at least it appears to be very clear, that those choices have overarching implications to the story as a whole. And I think that's what Eric was talking about. Is some of those choices that his group made led him closer to the best ending. My group, we were trying to genuinely make choices based on what we thought like our character would make based on the situation. And we didn't end up with the worst ending, I'm certain, but I think we ended up very middle of the road as far as possible endings were concerned. Okay. You and I can discuss off stream if you want to know which ending we got, but we did go back. I specifically wrote down some of the other paragraphs that we would have encountered had we made other decisions to see, at least in the midst of things, what would have been different. And yeah, it's neat because you don't encounter all of the locations or all of the cards in a single playthrough. So if you do go through this again, it won't be entirely known. And honestly, I think I would forget pretty quickly like where in specific rooms you encountered specific things. So it would be very hard for me to like completely game it and make it perfect the next time through if I were to play it again.
Right. Yeah. I really did like the system, and I feel like it was rewarding when I reached the end. So yeah.
Absolutely. I really enjoyed it, and the same group of mine is planning on playing Low Memory, probably not until February, but hopefully soon after that. After the cruise, maybe I'll get it to the table.
Okay. Awesome. And we'll talk about more about about Escape Tales when we get to our main discussion. But first, I have a game that I wanted to talk about. Ta-da! Minecraft. Builders and Biomes. Try and get the glare off of that thing. Pick this up at Essen. This is from Ravensburger. The designer is Ulrich Blum, or Blum. Anyway, it's based on, obviously, Minecraft. You are traveling around this overworld map. There's stacks of tiles that look like this on the back and this on the front. And they're different buildings. They have different resources that you need to collect in order to build them. They also appear in certain biomes. There's like forest and desert and tundra and mountain. Also, it's a type of material. This is a wooden house and a type of building. There are 3 scoring rounds in the game. In the first round, you want to have biomes that are connected. So you'll score your largest group of biomes. If I have 3 forest spaces together, that may earn me the most points. In the second round, I will be looking at the building materials. So if I have multiple onyx buildings next to each other, that may earn me the most points. You pick one of these categories to score. And then at the end of the third round, we're looking at those building types, and you want the largest group of those. What triggers the scoring round is this stack of resources. And this is probably the coolest thing about the game. I'm trying not to knock it over. Okay, so balance, Eric. It's not normally a dexterity game. But look at this. So This is a rather loose frame that you build along this platform, and you dump all of these wooden cubes into this thing.
Okay.
This at the beginning of the game. And shake them around until they form... Can I do this one-handed? That's the wrong side, Eric. Ta-da! It forms this cube. This is the mining cube. And one of the actions you can take is to take 2 cubes from this thing. And you can rotate it, and as long as it's the top is free and 2 sides are free, you can take the cube. Greens are wild, and the other resources represent, well, those resources. So one of your actions is you can take cubes, then you can move around the board. That's another action that flips up more of those tiles. I'm going to put this down before I drop it.
I was like, oh gosh, I'm just imagining how this is going to go.
Okay, it's safe. You can also build those buildings. You can fight monsters, because some of those tiles will have monsters on the other side. Your your weapons are like a little mini deck of tiles. And you turn over 3 tiles after you shuffle them up. And if you have enough hearts, enough damage to defeat the baddie, you defeat the baddie. If not, then they just sit there. There's no penalty other than the lost turn, the lost action, if you fail. But you can also claim more weapons along the outside of the board that will go into your deck and make it more likely that instead of drawing a poison potato, you draw something useful that might knock out the ninja or the zombie or whatever it is that you've discovered. The layers of that cube. So as soon as the first layer is gone, and you don't have to just choose from the top, you could get cubes from farther down if they're free. But as soon as the first layer is gone, that triggers the first scoring. Immediately after that player's turn. As soon as the second layer is gone, that's the second scoring. As soon as the third layer is gone, that's the third scoring. The game is over. And that's it. There are some monsters that give you endgame scoring, but most of it is there on the board. For a mass market tie-in game, this is pretty intricate with the set collection of the buildings and the resource management and the drafting. You know, do I want this cube that I know somebody else is going to get? Should I go for this building? I can see what resources you've got. Can you get that building before me? Playing this with my kids, it was a more robust game than I would have guessed from the license. So I was very happy with it. My 11-year-old got very annoyed with me because I stole a building right out from under him, which he could have claimed. Like he fought a ninja instead of claiming a building. And then I swooped in, grabbed the resources, and took the building. And he's like, "Ah, ah, ah, ah." So he had a negative opinion of the whole thing. But I think the 8-year-old had a good time. And he ended up winning. The 8-year-old won by 1 point because he built up his deck and was going after all those bad guys and ended up with so much endgame scoring that he caught up to all of us. So
wow.
Minecraft Builders and Biomes, I like it, and I think it's fully available here in the States now. I think they have it in the mass market stores. Don't just pass it up just because it says Minecraft on the outside. It's a pretty solid game.
I would say in general, it's not 100% across the board, but many of the companies making licensed games are doing so more thoughtfully now than ever before.
Yeah, I mean it's a safer bet to go with a licensed game. Maybe I would say 50-50. Because there's still some terrible games out there.
Right. But especially in the mass market space. But I mean, you look at stuff like the Trapper Keeper game, which was, honestly, it looks like a complete gimmick trying to literally just get to people my age, maybe who aren't board gamers, who just have nostalgia for the Trapper Keeper. It's a really interesting set collection game. I really enjoy the Trapper Keeper game.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right. So, speaking of, our discussion is going to be about clue systems. Oh my goodness. Okay, fine. Let's talk about the hat first.
What? I don't know what you're talking about, Eric. Don't.
I saw your video on Twitter, Crystal, about this hat, which, all right, show it off. Here we go.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So
I love it so much.
It's not as much the hat itself, which is adorable. It's got these little bulbs that you squeeze them and it makes the ears flap. But the reaction, you crack yourself up every time you do this.
I can't stand it. It's so good.
I love it. Okay, I've totally lost my
this is a serious discussion,
yes.
Eric. You've got a game for me, right?
I do, and I need you to concentrate, and this is going to be very difficult. Concentrate. Okay, this is a game we played before, and you did very well with this game. We're going to, let me get the cord free here. I'm going to take you for a ride. Here we go. Da-da-da-dum. We're going to play Similo.
Oh, awesome.
All right, and I might need to go full screen on this just because, yeah, I think I am. So I'm gonna make your hat go away. Bye, Crystal.
Oh no!
Ta-da! Okay. So if you remember, Similo has this arrangement of characters, and I am going to give you clues to hopefully get you to guess. I'm gonna actually take our little graphics out here as well, so that we can see the whole board. There we go. So. You have an assortment of fairy tale creatures. Let's start talking about what we have here. We have the Mad Hatter. We have King Arthur. We have Alice, who went to Wonderland. We have Snow White, Tinkerbell, the Three Little Pigs, Aladdin, the Queen of Hearts, the Fairy Godmother. This is the Sea Witch, totally not the Disney version, but from The Little Mermaid, the Evil Queen, and the Little Mermaid. Now, when we played this before, I took the deck of these fairy tale characters and then gave you a clue. Either this card is similar to the card that I'm trying to get you to guess. I have previously chosen one of these cards, so I'm trying to get you to guess one of them. And using the fairy tale deck, I gave you a clue, and then you have to eliminate one card in the first round, 2 cards in the second round, 3 in the third, 4 in the fourth. That leaves 2 cards to make the final decision. The chat can, of course, help you with this, but the reason why this is the advanced version of the game is that there are 2 decks currently available for Similo. We're going to give clues from the history deck.
Okay.
So you are guessing the fairy tale deck, but I have to give you clues using the history deck.
I will say up front that while I was a very good student and I got A's across the board, I would say my least favorite subject is history.
Well, good.
I'm very bad at remembering like big important events and dates and whatnot. So chat, I apologize in advance if I embarrass myself fully during this game.
Okay. So, we're going to begin. I've only looked at my first 5 cards, so I know what my first clue is, but after that, who knows? So, I'm going to choose Joan of Arc. And okay. Joan of Arc, I'm going to put face up, as opposed to like this, if it was not similar. I'm going to say that the card you're looking for is similar to Joan of Arc.
So, the card that you want me to eventually get to.
Yes. So what you need to decide to do right now is eliminate one of the other cards.
So based on that, I would assume the card that I am eventually going to get to is likely a female character. So that being the case, I'm going to eliminate a male character. So we will eliminate the Mad Hatter.
We've lost. So...
Wait, what? That was it? How? Oh no, I ruined the game. Okay. Chat, back me up. That was an okay thing, right? Like, what did...
So, are you ready? Okay.
Oh, hell, I could have picked anybody. Okay.
Yes, so I was worried that you'd go that route. I should have chosen I had
Okay, good. Somebody in the chat just said what? Okay, they're all saying
I had
what? So...
Kazuhika Hokusai in there. I probably should have put him in there as like, no, that probably... I should have put Princess Sisi, who I didn't even know. Elizabeth of Bavaria, the longest ruling empress of Austria. I should have said not her. Because just to get you on the male-female track. Because
yeah.
So my thought was that saying Joan of Arc... She was burned for hearing voices.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking the Mad Hatter was similar because he's kind of crazy too. That's where I was headed with that. I didn't have that many good choices in there. So what we've learned today is that this is much more difficult than the straight-up fairy tale version.
Well... I think, in theory, if you wanted to throw another card up there and pick another one at random, we could probably go again if you wanted.
Probably could. How much time we got? Yeah, why not?
We're okay.
All right, so are we gonna go with the same assortment?
Whatever you would prefer.
Because I'd have to dig out the other cards otherwise. So.
I mean, I also have the box for Wavelength sitting on the floor over there, so.
Well, we could always start talking about our main discussion too, but okay. I'm gonna shuffle these up. I have my selection.
Okay.
And shuffle again. All right. Once again,
I just would like to say that the chat has backed me up. Yeah, so right. I feel okay about that at least.
I should have saved Joan of Arc for a later clue. I didn't think you'd eliminate the Mad Hatter right off the bat.
I mean, just based on the fact that there are male and female characters, that was the easiest way to
I mean,
divvy them up, so to speak.
you could have done the Three Little Pigs.
Okay, true. I guess that would have been the easiest.
I'm not sure how you give clues if it's an animal and you're using the history deck. Okay. So now I need a new hand of cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I am trying to get you to guess a particular fairy tale character. Okay. New round. Pocahontas, I'm going to say, is similar to the card you are trying to guess.
Okay.
You must
so now this is that awkward moment where I go, is he using the learnings from the last round? And like that feels like the smartest thing for you to do based on how you know I think. So I'm going to say that we're likely looking for a female character this time. And I'm here, yeah, I'll take your advice, so to speak, and I'm going to eliminate the Three Little Pigs.
Three Little Pigs.
Just tell me we haven't lost yet.
We have not lost yet. We're still
okay. Good. Somebody in the chat also said the pigs.
Okay.
So
pigs. Good. All right. I need to pick somebody new. I will say. Not like William Shakespeare.
Okay, so...
Yes, Pocahontas, not William Shakespeare.
So we could either say not male, or not a writer, or it involves writing of some kind, or not like high class, kind of, I mean, not a storyteller, or any of these characters storytellers. Not really. Okay, so not like Shakespeare. But all right, so are you still doing the gender route, or is this something else? I know that gender can't hold us out forever, and I'm gonna have to go away from that, but it seems like eliminating a male character kind of makes sense. He also has a mustache. We got a couple guys with mustaches. You know what? It feels like British King Arthur, like that kind of fits. So let's eliminate King Arthur. Oh, I have to eliminate two. King Arthur and Aladdin. Right next to him.
Oh, here he is.
Yeah.
We are still alive.
Okay.
All right. Did I draw my new card yet? Because I would love to have a new option here. Ha! Okay. Let's say not like Abraham Lincoln.
Okay.
So not Shakespeare, not Lincoln. Yes, Pocahontas.
So you're either still pointing me to knock out male characters, or so Abraham Lincoln was a president, so he was a leader, he was a slave owner, he was very famous. I only have one male character left on the board. I have to eliminate 3. Let's go ahead and ditch the Mad Hatter.
Mad Hatter's out. You're still
in. He's in the bottom row. And then I have to eliminate 2 more. I'm going to eliminate no. Okay, everybody says, let's see, somebody said Evil Queen, somebody else said Queen of Hearts. Let's eliminate the Evil Queen.
One more.
And see, the chat was like, Abraham Lincoln owned slaves? And I'm like, this is where my history knowledge starts to show. The lack of history knowledge.
Yeah, I don't know if that's quite accurate. But
no. I don't know. he signed the Emancipation Proclamation?
Yes.
So, but prior to that, I don't know. Regardless. All right, let's get rid of the Queen of Hearts.
Queen of Hearts, we're still alive.
Okay.
Next round, we're going to have to eliminate 4. I will choose Cleopatra. Yes. And I'm going to... Where's the camera here? That's Cleopatra.
Okay.
So not Lincoln, not Shakespeare, Cleopatra, and Pocahontas.
Okay. So both of the characters that you have said that this character is like have dark colored hair. Snow White is the only character that I see that also has dark colored hair. They're both wearing headbands. The Little Mermaid is also wearing a headband, at least in these depictions. They're both young as well. So we are going, so I have to eliminate 4?
Yeah, leaving only 2 for this next round.
Okay, let's get rid of the Sea Witch.
Sea Witch, okay.
The Fairy Godmother.
Okay.
Tinkerbell.
Eh.
Oh,
Tinkerbell.
no.
So, I was faced with some very tough decisions.
I'm sure.
What I was hoping with Cleopatra, and the reason I showed it to you, she has wings on her headdress with an eagle.
Okay.
And
I was looking more at the headband part of it.
Yeah. And then the last clue I was going to give you was Da Vinci, who was also famous for his flying machines.
Oh, I probably would have gotten that if I'd been able to keep Tinkerbell in. But yeah, the dark hair on Snow White and the headband on Little Mermaid were too tempting. Alice would have been the other one I removed.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't really look at that. But that's the tricky part about this game. You know, you never
Absolutely.
know what you're focusing on. Anyway,
and I think it would be different if we were playing together and we were both looking at the cards at the same time too. I think for considering you weren't looking at them, you did a really good job.
Yes. All right, let's bring you back into the picture because I'm sick of just staring at my. I want to see the hat again. That's really what.
Yeah, I kept it off.
We're coming back.
I can't do it without laughing.
I am so tickled by this. Okay.
So the story is that I saw this on the Twitch stream for Games Done Quick and was so delighted seeing somebody in their audience wearing it that my husband just ordered me one on Amazon and it just showed up and I have been tickled ever since. I love it.
So, moving on to our discussion topic for the day. You, Crystal, were inspired by something that Tom and I talked about on the Dice Tower podcast, the most recent episode.
Which, if people hear, I know some people are like, oh, I only listen to the podcast. Oh, I only watch the YouTube channel. If anyone here does not listen to the Dice Tower podcast, I know Eric, he's on it, so he can't really tell you. It is delightful. I am part of the Dice Tower network. They don't require me to listen to the Dice Tower stuff. There are tons of videos that I don't watch because I don't have time.
I don't watch any of those, no.
But I listen to every episode of the podcast, Eric and Tom's episodes and Mandy and Suzanne's episodes, and they are all so great. And it comes out once a week, and they cover a ton of games. Honestly, when I listen to it, I have no idea how you all cover so many games so often. Like, I play a lot of games that I can't even fathom. So please, if you guys aren't listening to the Dice Tower podcast, put it in your podcast feed. It is great.
So one of the things we were discussing, talking about this 50 Clues game that I mentioned earlier on in the show, was the hint system for the game. It uses an app, and when you get stuck, you can ask for a clue, and it will give you some sort of nudge in the right direction. And I was somewhat annoyed by a particular puzzle. Again, I don't want to spoil it exactly, but it involved an illustration that had moving pieces, and we were supposed to intuit how you move the pieces around, which then would give me the solution to a code that I needed. And I could not, for the life of me, figure out how these symbols on this card matched with this symbol on this card and moving this around to get the answer. And I asked for a clue. It said, you need this card and this card. Yes, I know that. I asked for the next clue, and I said, you need to look at this card, which tells you how to move this card. I'm like, no, it doesn't. That doesn't tell me what I need to do. asked for the third and final clue, and it says, so obviously the answer is blah, 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 blah. No. And I was very annoyed by a hint system that that didn't give me the logic for the thing I was trying to do. And
so I actually had a very similar moment. I had a very similar moment in Escape Tales, which, for the record, almost every puzzle I encountered in Escape Tales was great. But there was one in particular, which again, I will not give specifics about, that we were really stuck on, and I just did not know how to solve it. And the hint system in Escape Tales is covered by their web-based app. So you have a specific puzzle that you're solving, and you can ask for a hint about it. Oh, but what's nice is before you ask for hints, you can actually just ask it to tell you how many elements of the game are required to solve it. And I wanted to point this out specifically because it is one of my favorite things that I think all or most escape room style games should do, is not tell you how to solve anything, but just let you know how many things are required to solve this thing. Because there have been many moments in other escape room games where we're looking at like 3 cards and really trying to suss out how to solve the thing. And then later, much later often, we find out we were missing a 4th card the whole time and we could not have solved it if we wanted to.
Yeah.
So in Escape Tales, it'll say you need 2 game cards and the map and the board, whatever. It'll tell you exactly what components are required, but not how to use them. And I really appreciated that a lot.
Exit the Game does something very similar. It uses a hint deck. So each puzzle has 3 solution cards. And the first hint card almost always tells you what cards you need in order to solve the puzzle. And so if you look at it and go, oh, I don't have that card yet, then you can sort of ignore the puzzle for now and wait until you've discovered those things.
Yeah.
I do like that system. I think Exit might have my favorite just overall system of all of them, because not only does it have that intro, here's what you need to solve this, then the second one sort of gives you a nudge. And the third one not only gives you the answer, but explains the logic behind it. Like, if you look at the way this is written, it matches with this other thing you saw somewhere else, and that connects with this, and so the answer is this. And I rarely, in fact, I can't think of a time I felt unfulfilled in the solution that it gave me. I might be annoyed that I didn't figure it out myself, but I haven't felt like that didn't explain anything. I haven't had that feeling with that.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I felt with this one puzzle in Escape Tales specifically. Is it told us how many components, and then there were 3 individual hints, all separate, and we were like, yeah, did that, yeah, did that, yeah, did that. With all 3 hints, we still couldn't determine what the answer was. And then, yeah, it just gave us the answer without actually showing us how it figured it out. We had to go to Board Game Geek, to the forums, and multiple other people had said, what the heck is up with this one puzzle?
Yeah.
And one person had to like detail out how they got to it. And the problem was that the solution looked like one thing, but was actually another. And yeah, like kind of what you said, it was not a eureka moment where we went, oh, we just missed something. Like we were like, I honestly feel like I was never going to get there. And I don't like those types of puzzles.
It's annoying when and sometimes that's just the puzzle design. The perspective of the designer is such that, you know, they wouldn't imagine that you'd think about it in this other way. And some things that seem obvious to the designer or the illustrator are not necessarily as obvious to the player. And then other things can also play a part. There was a Deckscape game that I played recently, the Curse of the Sphinx, or the Egyptian-themed one, that actually had a printing error. There was something with the... Oh, my goodness. There's something with the ink. Like, an element of the cards was supposed to be a different color or shine differently. It was supposed to have an effect that didn't come through in the first printing of the game. And so they gave you a little card that said, just so you know, when you reach card number 38, read this, because it's going to tell you what you need to know to solve the puzzle. And you were, you know, they're supposed to be all flowery and descriptive of find the shiniest object or the, you know, but they actually had to tell you how to solve it. Like, look for the thing with the most yellow. because that's how you solved the puzzle. Because the printing didn't make them as shiny as they were supposed to.
I've only played one Deckscape. It was one of the first couple that came out. It was something with London in the title. I don't remember the name of it exactly.
Yes.
But
Tower of London? No.
Something like that.
Maybe
Regardless, Deckscape is my least favorite of all of the escape room systems. And that's not to say that it is horrible. Mm-hmm. It is just my least favorite.
There's something, I mean, I've enjoyed Deckscape because it's approachable and something that my kids can play. The hint system for Deckscape, getting back on track of how their hints work, they give you a card, I think a front and back at one point, very early on in the adventure, that just has a list of numbers and then one line of backward text. And so if you're stuck, and you're stuck on card 18, you can look up 18 and it will say, have you turned it upside down? Or look underneath the drawer, or something like that. Sometimes that is enough, and sometimes it very much isn't. When you're only given one line of text to give a clue for a puzzle, how are you going to be able to find the one thing that people are stuck on? So, but with Deckscape, when you do get stuck, you can just plow through it. While with many of these other games, if you don't have the solution, you can't move forward. Deckscape, you can just flip the card over and go, oh, okay, and then move on and get an X or a penalty or whatever it was for that particular puzzle, which in some cases is good if you are fully stuck, but I find it almost too easy to plow through Deckscape. If you're having patient children like mine, they can be like, let's just move on. Come on, let's just go. And it's like, no, I want to solve the puzzle. I don't want to get an X for that one. But Deckscape, I don't think, has a strong hint system at all.
No, I would agree based on the one that I played. In the chat, Jordan S. Said, I like most of the escape games I've played, but I prefer the easier ones, less frustrating and more fun. And I would say that I actually agree. I think I'm a fairly intelligent person, and I can solve fairly difficult puzzles. And some of the difficult puzzles that I've encountered in these types of games, I've enjoyed solving. But I think my most enjoyable experiences with escape room games are ones where the puzzles do tend to be on the easier side for the most part, and where the hints are more robust and available and don't feel like they're penalizing you for taking them. Because I think some of the worst moments in these games are when you really are stuck, but you have to take a penalty to help yourself along. And I get they're trying to be kind of reminiscent of an actual escape room, you know, where if you take a hint, it reduces your time or whatever else.
Right.
But I mean, all of this is an abstracted experience that isn't a real world thing. If a madman had locked you into a cabin, there wouldn't be a hint system. So, like, I enjoy solving puzzles, trying at them for a little while, and then having a helping hand there to pull me along when needed.
Yeah, I agree. I don't like it when you are penalized in some way. I get it. There is, a lot of these games have some sort of score you get at the end from 1 to 5 stars or a percentage or something. And yes, you should get a higher score if you didn't require hints. If you got through all the puzzles correctly the first time. But it also feels bad. Like, sometimes you sit there for an extra 5 minutes frustrated and not taking a clue when you could, if you got that extra nudge, you could keep things going and still keep things enjoyable. You mentioned actual escape rooms. Not every escape room uses a hint system the same way. Many are like, you have unlimited hints. If you're stuck, ask. We'll help you. That's what we're here for. The object is to get you to enjoy as much of the adventure as possible, not to punish you for not, for trying to avoid getting a clue.
Right. And similarly, I've had experiences with the unlock system where you have to input something into the app, where we would specifically avoid putting things in that we thought were the correct answer, because sometimes an answer seems too obvious and you get penalized if you put in a wrong answer. So we'll avoid an obvious answer thinking it must be more complex when all along it was the obvious answer. And so then we've wasted time because we know we would get penalized if it was wrong. And so, it doesn't, it works against its own system in that way.
Yes, but again, I don't know what the alternative is. Like,
I don't have a solution.
Yeah, because Unlock, you can't just, they don't want you to just enter all 4 of the codes you think you need.
Right.
Because then it's too easy. So you need to be penalized for entering the wrong code. Sometimes that can really destroy you, though. If you really don't know what you're supposed to be doing, you have to enter in 4 different codes. That's wrong. What then? No, that's wrong. And now you've lost 12 minutes of time because of all the codes you've entered. Other hint systems that we've talked about. Escape Room the game has sort of 2 hint systems. This is the one that has the plastic device, the key. I forget what they call it. The key code.
Yeah, like it's a plastic box that has 4 keyholes in it.
Which is now, you can also do via an app. They have a virtual version of that, so you don't have to put batteries in the device. But you're supposed to use these keys. During the adventure, they have envelopes that you can then look at different points. So it says, at 35 minutes, you may look at this clue. But the problem with that is that you may be way past that puzzle. You may not have seen that puzzle yet. Or somewhere in between. You don't need that clue anymore. Or you really need a clue and you have to sit there and wait 3 minutes for your next clue delivery to arrive and hope that clue is the thing you need to move you forward. It's interesting, but it feels a little clunky. However, they also on their website have a full walkthrough of all of the puzzles, which then tells you all of the logic, all of the iconography, all of the pieces that you put together to get where you need to get to in the adventures. And that is far more helpful, almost as sort of a debrief when you're done. You can go, wait, how are we supposed to get to this? And you can get there. Or if you really are stuck, you have that information available. It just means going to the website.
I played at least 2 of the scenarios in the original box of Escape Room the game, and really enjoyed them. I liked the physicalness of the box and the keys. Like, that felt unique and different and kind of a little bit more like a larger escape room experience, just because you had physical components that you had to manipulate. And I looked on Board Game Geek. There are so many scenarios for Escape Room the game now. If you search the term escape room on the homepage of BGG and just let the drop down populate, it's so many of them. There's a Jumanji one.
Yep.
There's a Titanic one. There's a one at the dentist.
Yes.
So all of those, I'm now a little bit intrigued about going back to that system. But I will say my favorite escape room system of any of them, hands down, is Escape Room in a Box, which there are 2 different scenarios. There's the werewolf experiment, and then there's the standalone one, which I believe is just called Flashback. And yes. I've played both, and they are by far my favorite escape room games. Not just because of the hint system, but I think the hint system in that one is really good. So those games have more physical components than most of the others. And while they are technically not replayable with their base components, they give you can go to their website and print off new stuff to make it replayable, which I really appreciate, kind of like Exit the Game does. And their hint system is neat because, if I remember correctly, they say you get a certain number of hints for free. And if you go beyond that number, then like the experiment gets ruined or whatever. So it isn't like hints per puzzle that you're getting penalized for. You have a set number of hints that you can use throughout the entire thing. And so it felt less punishing. And honestly, the puzzles in that one just were on the slightly easier side. And they were all so fun and delightful. I just really enjoyed it.
Yes, the werewolf experiment was good. I don't remember how the hint system worked. Was that app-based as well?
No, it's in a book, if I recall. And you just looked up specific things within a book, and it was like if you turn past a certain page, it's that's you can't go past this page because that's the solution or something or other. But I vaguely because I know sometimes when things are book based, you have that issue where when you look at one thing, you accidentally see another. And I don't recall that happening based on however they had things laid out. So I don't specifically remember how it looks, but whatever it was helpful enough. Like I specifically remember one puzzle in the flashback box that we got stuck on, and the hint system was able to get us there. So
cool. There was one thing you mentioned that I wanted to come back to. You said Exit the game has a replayable aspect that you can print out. I think you meant Escape Room the game.
Exit.
Exit, I think, does destroy. I don't think there is a way to unless you've done something beforehand. Exit is intended to be recycled when you're done.
Okay, because I thought that you can go onto their website and print out the components you destroyed to replay the same box. Is that not possible for Exit?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Because a lot of the destroyed components are cards, and so you would obviously know which ones are new. I don't believe that's something that they offer. They have a whole paragraph in their rulebook that says, this is intended to be recycled, played once. All of our components are recyclable and sustainable and all that.
Okay.
I know Escape Room the game, the one with the key device, does have printable stuff on the website.
Okay.
In fact, they have a little icon on anything that is printable that you can print out a new version. And I agree with the Escape Room in a Box. The Werewolf Experiment has printable stuff as well.
Okay,
but I don't believe that's the case with Exit.
I think you are correct. I looked it up on Cosmos' site. I looked up their first one, The Abandoned Cabin, that came out in 2017, and it doesn't look like there are components.
Yeah.
So I think you are correct. So I apologize, chat, for being misleading there. I thought when they first came out that they said, like, yes, it's destroyable, but you can technically do something to fix it. But I think maybe I'm just projecting the Werewolf Experiment stuff back onto Exit.
Right. I do believe that there are people in the forums on Board Game Geek who have tried to make Exit replayable in some way, but it would require basically knowing what all the puzzles are and then creating non-destructible versions of some of those puzzles. And I think
it's
that's
too much work.
Too much, yeah. It would ruin the experience for you. You might be able to recreate the story somehow. I'm not sure, but I mean, you're like poking holes and stuff, and it would be very difficult to recreate that. So
my friend Kathy really likes running escape room games for other people. Like once she plays through an unlock, she'll run that scenario. And I know you've said you've done this at conventions before too.
Which is actually, as we said in the podcast, one of the best ways to have a clue system is to have someone who has played the scenario before that can tailor the clues to where exactly the group is stuck. I really enjoyed when I talked about here on the show, running Catacombs of Horror. Because when they were stuck, I could say, what have you looked at? What makes you head down this path? I could do some leading questions that could then get them in the right position, as opposed to just simply saying, well, you need to look at this. Which any hint system, any static hint system is going to be required to do in some way. So boiling down to the end of our discussion on hints.
I know I keep distracting you.
What would be your ideal hint system? If you could design a hint system that would help you through an escape game, what would it look like?
I mean, aside from what you just said, where like there's a person in the box that jumps out and helps you with it.
A hint line like the old Sierra Online games. You could call up and say, I'm stuck here. It costs $9.99 a minute. Yeah.
I think for one thing, something I mentioned earlier, I think just telling you all of the components that are involved in the puzzle first and foremost is my favorite thing. And I think any hint system should utilize that first and foremost. Then maybe was that a knock on my office door? I don't know what that was. All right.
A ghost. It's a
maybe.
Mystery.
My husband wouldn't just knock on the door. I think then specifically, sorry, I lost my train of thought.
You want to know what components you need first. Pointing
toward what you need to look at on those components would be kind of the next step. Like if you need some more help, like, here's what you should be looking at. And if you need to manipulate things, you might want to take a look at this, or you might want to pick that up or look there. it's really hard to say what the perfect is because these games utilize different types of things. If it's all card-based or if there are physical components, the types of hints that I would want to see are different because you can't approach all of these systems the same way. I do think I don't want to be penalized for taking at least 1 or 2 hints. Now, if I'm getting to the point where you're telling me the answer flat out, maybe a penalty of some sort is okay at that point. But the systems that penalize you for taking any hints, I do not enjoy. I don't want to feel like once we've gotten stuck that I have to keep pushing past our stuckness, because very rarely when we've hit that wall do we push past it on our own. Occasionally, I know that can happen. Yeah. And honestly, those moments can feel really good, like the, oh my gosh, we figured it out moment. But truly, we kind of get that same feeling even when the hints start pushing us that direction. And it doesn't seem to take away from that moment for me.
Some folks in the chat mentioning the old Infocom text adventure clue books where you used a highlighter that revealed only one line of text at a time to reveal as much of the clue as you needed for the specific puzzle you're stuck on. Somebody else suggesting a hint system that shows a different puzzle solved in the same way that demonstrates the logic. That was pretty cool. What else did I see go by?
Ella, I love you too.
Okay.
Ella's in the chat.
Awesome. Yeah, I don't know. I as far as my favorite, I think, like I said, Exit comes very close to what I would like because those cards often show an illustration. They'll show a pictogram of what you're looking at. It's often very clear what they're guiding you toward at the end. Some of the text-based clues, Deckscape or even the apps, won't show you illustrations. They'll just say, look at this, or this other thing. And it doesn't always explain everything that you need in order to fully understand the system.
Yeah, I would agree that if it's something visual, giving you a visual clue can definitely be beneficial. And I will say, for the record, this has been beaten to death by a lot of, I think, board game reviewers, but one of my least favorite things is like in the unlock system where there's just a tiny number hidden somewhere on a card and you have to find it for no thematic reason whatsoever. And I do appreciate that their app, you have the option to turn on hints regarding those numbers, where at a certain point, it'll just automatically pop up a notification saying,
yep,
hey, search this card for, in this area or whatever. So while I don't like that part of their system, I appreciate that they have since included a way to make that part of the system easier for people like me. Because, yeah, I have great vision with my contacts in, and some of those numbers I just never spot.
It is, and I guess I'm a little torn with that one because sometimes that notification will pop up while I'm still looking at other cards. So, like, you get to turn over 5 cards, and I'm still looking at this one and piecing this together, and then the little thing goes, ding! Have you looked at card number 16? There's a hidden number. Like, what? I haven't looked at card 16 yet. Fine, I'll find it. I mean, sometimes thematically, it's like the number is under a desk, so you've looked under the desk and found something. It's supposed to be a hidden item that you've discovered by.
I think I would rather have it be a hidden item, like we found a duck. Like maybe instead of numbers, what if in the unlock system there was, I don't know how they would penalize you for picking wrong things, but if there were certain things in the room visually that in the app, it could say, explore this further. And like, oh, there's a rubber ducky underneath the desk. That seems odd. Let's pick it up. Kind of.
Yeah. So
that way it feels more like you're discovering a thing rather than just, oh, I spotted a number.
Yeah. It's difficult with the, depending on how the game's put together, what the components look like. Because if something exists, you usually think that's something that needs to be explored. So knowing that there's an entry for a rubber ducky,
you would want to do it.
That highlights the fact that it's something you need to look at. And the fact that you have to reference it somehow. Yeah. It's sort of like the equivalent of clicking all over the place and doing a pixel hunt on one of the point and click adventure games.
I mean, I've done that many, many times.
Where's the darn thing that I need to hit to get past this room? Yeah.
Do you have a favorite point and click game, like an older one that you really particularly like? This is just a curiosity for me.
I loved Space Quest. Space Quest 3 is one of my absolute favorites, and King's Quest 4, The Perils of Rosella, was my first foray into that style of game. So those two are really, that era was exactly when I got sucked into these things.
I mean, I played a lot of the like Myst, Riven, Zork games, and honestly, while I know everybody thinks of Zork as the text-based adventures, and that is obviously where they started, the video-based PC Zork games that came out later were some of my favorites. There was one called Zork Grand Inquisitor. It had Eric Avari, who people might not know by name, but would know by face and voice, in a role, and they actually had video footage in the game of him, and it was great. Another one that I loved was The Neverhood, which was actually entirely made in clay stop motion animation.
Wow.
And it is delightful. If anybody's never played The Neverhood and you like point and click adventures, I would highly recommend that one. I loved it in the 90s.
There was one also in the, I guess, late 90s called Shivers. That was about exploring a museum. It was this creepy museum, and there were elemental demons that you're trying to capture. I don't think it did very well as far as being a hit, but I really liked that game a lot.
Oh my gosh, somebody in chat just quoted Return to Zork, and that's, my dad and I used to quote that line specifically all the time when I was little. Want some rye? Course you do. I love those Zork games. All right, I know I got us off topic.
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit. Point and click adventures might be something interesting to explore in likening to board games in a future episode, but
sure. Well, it's why I like Time Stories so much. I mean,
I know, right?
That
it
was
kind of
very
did
much
feel like that.
Point and click adventure style puzzle. Yeah.
Yeah. I would say Legacy of Dragonholt a little bit like that as well, potentially. But we are about out of time. We'll stick around for a few minutes if anyone in the chat has any questions for us. And they don't have to be about point and click adventures or escape room games, although they can be about those two things. If you all have any questions for us, please feel free to throw them at us. And also don't forget to hit that thumbs up button below the video if you haven't already. Yeah. Oh, and in case you all were not aware, badge sales for Dice Tower West officially ended on Monday. I know that sounds like bad news, but people are going to be allowed to transfer badges. And inevitably, before the con, some people will end up needing to transfer their badges away. So if you haven't joined the Dice Tower West Convention Facebook group and you want to come and don't have a badge yet, that is the place that you're going to want to go. We will have an official badge transfer thread there in the near future. So even though badge sales have ended, you don't have to freak out. You will still most likely be able to get a badge. And honestly, I want to have everybody come join us in Las Vegas, February 26th through March 1st. So I hope if you don't have a badge yet that you're able to get one, because we would love to see you here.
So what's a better musical, Cats or Phantom of the Opera?
Phantom.
Absolutely.
Easy.
Yeah, yeah.
So
yeah,
easy.
Yeah.
I don't care if you're talking about the stage version or the movie version or any version. And I love Andrew Lloyd Webber musicals, but he is very overrated in some regards, and some of his shows are very overrated. Although I'm a bad person to ask because I think Cats highly overrated, but I love Starlight Express, which is ridiculous. Starlight Express is literally about a little boy having a dream about his toy trains. And in the dream, the trains are people on roller skates skating around. I don't care who you are. Watching a bunch of people sing and dance and skate all at the same time is just delightful. And I love it. And I think the music's also pretty good.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know if there are any other questions.
That was the only question. Cats or Phantom. If we wanted to talk musicals at some point, chat, come to my monthly Q&A at the end of January. Oh, wait. I might not have a Q&A this month because we're going to be on the cruise the last Sunday in January.
I did see a question go by about our schedule. Yes, we're back to an every other week schedule here for Dice Tower Tonight. We will be back. Today's the 8th. We'll be back on the 22nd, one day before we travel for the Dice Tower cruise, but we will have one in 2 weeks. And we should be every other week moving forward, which is great. I did also see that someone had managed to get exit to be replayable by using a color printer and printing out the destructible components. But that does require looking at the destructible components before you play.
Well, I would say, in theory, that would be like if you've played it, like you bought it, you played it, and then you want to pass it on to a friend, maybe there is an option for you. Although I would say probably not an easy option, but...
Yeah, it's hard, especially when it's a card that would then have a number on the back or something.
Yeah, that's true. All right, well, it looks like the questions are... Oh, hold on, one more. There's an account called Rubber Ducky.
Oh,
hold
God.
on, I referenced a Rubber Ducky and a Rubber Ducky appeared. Did I make that happen?
That's a little spooky. Yeah.
It says, their question is, which board game would benefit the most from the addition of a Rubber Ducky?
I mean, other than Duck, Duck, Go, I'm sure.
Right, because Duck, Duck, Go already has some duckies in it. I would say maybe Wingspan. I mean, it's about birds, so...
It's just... The card, Rubber Ducky.
Well, that would be a good first player marker. If you actually had a rubber duck that you passed around, that would be a fun first player marker for Wingspan.
Yes. Robo Rally.
Oh, of course, Robo Rally. Yeah. I would say also maybe that new remake of Ice Cube, the Olaf's Frozen Ice Adventure, or whatever, because there's water and ice involved, and maybe you could get a ducky to float once enough of the ice is melted. I don't
Quacks
know.
of Quedlinburg.
Oh gosh, David how did we not come up with that?
Yeah.
All right.
Well, we're getting silly. We got silly a long time ago.
I'm so sorry. It's all my fault. If the chat isn't used to my silliness by now, I don't know what they're doing here, but we will be back in 2 weeks at 6 p.m. Pacific time on the 22nd of January, right before we depart for the Dice Tower cruise. Thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you for hitting that thumbs up button below the video. And until next time, I'm Crystal Pisano.
I'm Eric Summerer.
And you've been watching Dice Tower Tonight.
Oh, thank you for watching. Promotional consideration has been provided by game publishers in the form of review copies of games. Crystal and I will see you in 2 weeks for another installment. Our show is supported by viewers like you. Thanks. Dice Tower Tonight is produced by Crystal and me with assistance from Tom Vassell, Mike DeLisio, Roy Kennedy, and Rob Searing. Arguments over who will have a featured role in A Streetcar Named Desire provided by Stella Conflict. Timothy Pinkham composed our theme, and hosting is provided by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games at great prices at CoolStuffInc.com. Give us your feedback on the Dice Tower Guild at Board Game Geek on Facebook or Twitter, or by emailing us at dicetower@gmail.com. And don't forget to visit the other shows in the Dice Tower Network. Find something new at dicetowernetwork.com. Until next time, from all of us at the Dice Tower, have fun
gaming. Bye, everyone. I'm sorry.
Bye, hat.
It's never coming back ever again.